from everything we can tell, there are a few different experiences. So sometimes the most common is the sense of, oh, I'm still here. I'm still here. And they have a view, they're oriented towards the human realm or the earth realm. And they're looking back down at and seeing their family members. And then apparently their view the mind can go wherever. So they can move across the earth and come to people. Like time and space doesn't seem to matter. We know this because about 2/3 of all of these shared death experiences are remote. In other words, somebody in New York will say, hey, at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I was just sitting at my computer and all of a sudden I felt my mom. And then I felt this sense of her saying, I'm okay. I started to weep. My mom was coming to me to say that she was okay. Mm-hmm. And then she said, I love you. And I felt that. And I said, well, I love you too. But they don't know how to contextualize it because our culture doesn't have that contextualization. But then they realize when they get a call 20 minutes, half an hour later, hey, from a loved one, I just wanted to tell you that your mother died. And then they put it together, go, wait a minute, when? Oh, about 20 minutes ago. Oh, right. Really? So, it sounds kind of bizarre that we're talking about this in the way that we are, because where I sit as an end-of-life, death and dying researcher, I have hundreds of these accounts. I mean, I can't process all of them. I have a team of 14 researchers, and we have more than we could ever process. It's that common, but we still don't talk about it because in our culture, it's weird. And you don't want to be that person who says, like they look at you like, well, Steve's mother died and he just hasn't really been the same. Something's gone off with him. No one wants that to be perceived as crazy and losing it. So anyway, I'm just giving you examples. This is how we know that when someone dies, they drop their body, they enter into this post-mortem reality. Time and space doesn't matter. If they're looking back at planet Earth, they actually have the capacity to go visit people, which we hear of all the time. But that we don't know how common that is versus another experience, which is somebody dies and they're confused. They don't know what's going on. And sometimes we have in our shared death experience, in our research, we have caregivers, loved ones say, well, suddenly I found myself with my father and he was confused. And I said, Dad, are you okay? He goes, well, I don't know. He says, well, you've died. You mean I died? What do you mean? It's like, yeah, you died, remember? And they literally have some sort of cognitive dissonance. Like they don't understand where they are. But in the shared death experience, in these cases, we know that the caregiver loved one who's now in the initial stages of the afterlife with, in this case, the father dying, says, Dad, I'm going to help you. Turn around and I want you to move towards the light. Now, at this point, we now are going to move through the features and phenomena that we have studied and others have studied that seem to be available to the dying in their transition. So the first one is encounters with predeceased loved ones. So there's a greeting party. Oftentimes, loved ones who have predeceased are there to greet them. Sometimes there's a spirit guide there, an elevated being. And sometimes that being is what I call the conductor, who has this role of kind of managing the transition of this person. And the conductor has a very purposeful personality. They're very intentional. They're kind of businesslike. You get a sense they have a job to do. And they command authority. They're kind, but they've got a job to do. And it's to move these now spirit beings out of their human body through the stages of the afterlife. And they tend to be doing ascension. They tend to be going up. They tend to be moving towards the light. There tends to be heavenly realms, beautiful landscapes around. But all of these become kind of the landmarks of the afterlife, the initial stages. And it's corroborated in near-death experience narratives, shared-death experience narratives, and now in the past life review data as well. Those narratives, of which Michael Newton Institute has, he had 10,000, more than a decade ago. So he's no longer alive, but the institute continues, and they continue to document. So yeah, I hope that's a long-winded answer for the landscape in the afterlife, but I think it makes sense.